The Airbnb gold rush is dead, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a new investment opportunity for these investors to move into. Boutique hotels are a great secondary option, and in my opinion, it's a much better way to actually grow your real estate portfolio. Not only are boutique hotels more scalable, more stable, but they're more fun. And who wouldn't want to do something that actually makes you want to get out of bed in the morning? So today, we are diving into boutique hotels, and I'm going to sit down with an expert, Joe Kua, who is a consultant for boutique hotels, to understand why are boutique hotels taking off, how can we get started in boutique hotels, and what investment metrics should you pay attention to when you're getting into this industry. Airbnbs have been a popular investment for the last 5 or 7 years for a multitude of reasons, namely their convenience and novelty for travelers, the low barrier of entry for your typical investor, and the high profitability that they can bring. But that has certainly changed in the last few years since interest rates started to rise and the market has become overly saturated with Airbnb investors.
The number of short-term rentals in the Valley is up 40% this year. That's according to AirDNA.
Now, I'm not saying that every single Airbnb is going to go away. It's just that the really cool, creative, thoughtful investments where the investors are actually spending the time to brand or create some sort of unique stay experience at their Airbnb, they're going to do just fine. But it's the normal, average Airbnb that is going to struggle. So think about it. As a traveler, you want something that's unique. And when you start to add on all of the hidden fees that have been frustrating travelers for the longest time, it's much easier, cheaper, and convenient for them to book a hotel room. So we're actually starting to see this shift back towards hotels, but not just your typical hotel. Travelers these days want an experience. They want something really cool. They want that Instagrammable moment. And that's where boutique hotels come into play. So that's why I sat down with Joe at the CCC Atlanta annual event to get his thoughts on boutique hotels. Now bear with us on the audio. It's a little bit loud, so we're kind of having to yell because there's over 500 people in this room, but I promise you the content is worth it. So you've been in the hotel industry for quite some time.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your background in hotels.
I've been in the business for 25 years, 21 years with Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, so the largest hotel company in the world. And the last 4 years I've been consulting for private developers around the country that are developing mid-scale, upscale hotels, either ground up or conversions.
What are you seeing in terms of future growth in the hotel industry?
Well, like you said, post-COVID, in the commercial sector, the hotels have been the darling of the commercial segment. You know, multifamily office has been kind of beat up a little bit because people don't want to go back to work, which is understandable, but a lot of people have been gravitating to hotels. And within the hotel segment, extended stay has been kind of the darling of the hotels, just because of the operating numbers. The staff is a little bit lower, the costs are lower, so it looks good to the investors, you know, a little bit more.
So one of the biggest challenges that hotels faced during COVID was the amount of staff that they had on payroll while they had very little revenue coming in. That is where an Airbnb investor actually has an advantage when getting into the boutique hotel industry because Airbnb investors are already accustomed to operating from afar. They are absentee owners, right? They're not typically used to going on site every single day. You've got the technology, you've got the systems in place to ensure that cleaning gets done without you being there, check-in gets done without you being there, and that makes these investments that much more profitable. So if you bring that Airbnb model mixed with a hotel model, you can actually scale it pretty well.
I think one of the things that in the hotel segment that's really on fire right now is the boutique hotel. You know, like what you're working on in Nashville.
Let's talk real quick about what a boutique hotel is. A boutique hotel is not necessarily a super high-end hotel. It's not necessarily a low-end hotel.
I can't do
This
it.
place is a dump. It's a
tried.
dump. You know what? It's a hellhole.
You could kind of run the spectrum when it comes to boutique hotels. It could be 5 units, it could be 500 units. It's more about the fact that it's not a corporately flagged or branded hotel. So essentially, it's a mom and pop shop that is probably locally run and operated.
A lot of hotel developers are more responding to what the market wants. There's people that don't want to go in the vanilla box hotel anymore. They want to go to something cool, something stylish. A lot of them are taking pictures and being on their social media, so they don't really want to be at, like, you know, I don't want to say a brand, but one of the normal brands out there. So I think in the boutique style and the market, that's really blowing up right now.
Are you seeing boutique hotels taking business back from Airbnbs? Because for the longest time,
hotels were kind of fighting against Airbnbs, taking all their customers.
Here comes trouble.
Now people are starting to realize Airbnb might be a little too expensive. I want to go back to the hotel experience, but I don't want to have the old hotel experience.
Right. That's true. And I think that is part of the response, is that boutique space is where they really like to be. But I think that battle between Airbnb and hotel, traditional hotel, been going on for a number of years. Like the hoteliers said, the Airbnb people didn't have the same regulations that they had to live up to. So there was an unfairness, they thought,
One of the points that we kind of dance around here is the fact that Airbnbs have largely been unregulated for many years, and now a lot of cities and municipalities are catching up and in some cases overly regulating what can and can't happen with Airbnbs. So it is such a risky endeavor to buy Airbnbs with the hopes that the regulations that you're buying them under will still be there tomorrow. That's what makes boutique hotels a much more attractive and stable investment. Not only do you have more units in a single location, right? It's like buying apartments versus buying a single family home, but it's also an established practice that has been around for a very long time that is probably not going to have the regulations turned on its head tomorrow.
Marriott, Hilton, Wyndham, Choice, they've all put more extended stay brands out there. It's to kind of claw back some of that Airbnb space from these guys. So that's where the big response is.
Yeah, extended stay has been wildly popular. Do you see that trend continuing to go as well?
100%, because the investors like it. And if the money likes it, it's going to stay. And the operating model, like I said, is less labor intensive. You're not cleaning the rooms every day. It's like once a week. So you have less people working at the hotel. You're not filling up the hotel every night. You're filling it up maybe once a month, every 2 weeks. So operationally, it's easier, and so it's better bottom line numbers. So 100% it'll continue to grow.
The other nice thing about owning your own boutique hotel is the fact that you could do long-term extended stay. You could actually kind of have a hybrid hotel where you've got your typical, weekend warriors or business travelers during the week, but you could also have some travelers that are staying for 1, 2, or 4 weeks at a time, depending on their needs. You're probably going to get less per night for an extended stay, 30, 60-day stay, but you'll also have the stability of that income being there for an extended period of time while you're making more of your profits off of the weekend warriors. So that's one way to kind of diversify your income and revenue sources within one location. You can also take advantage of services like Hotels.com and your typical hotel booking sites, as well as VRBO, Airbnb, your own bookings, and really maximize the potential for renting out your hotel rooms.
You mentioned earlier that office is struggling, which is no secret, right?
Yeah.
Are you seeing office to hotel conversions?
There's a lot of people that are doing that right now. Sometimes the numbers don't really work though, because you got to put a bathroom in every room, and that gets very expensive. And depending on the building, if you can really even do it with the construction, sometimes it's too costly. However, some guys are getting it done, and they're sort of responding to some of that affordable housing that's needed, especially in cities. So there's a good solution, I think, forward for some of these office buildings to convert to hotels if the numbers work, and that's the tricky part.
Now, I want to qualify that real quick because converting office buildings into anything other than office has been a trending topic for the last 4 years since offices began to vacate after the pandemic. The problem is, though, that most office buildings do not actually make very good conversions because of all of the infrastructure of the building being located in the core, and they'll often have very deep bays between the interior corridor and the exterior windows. It doesn't really make sense to convert that existing building into residential or hotels. There are some buildings out there that will make sense to convert into uses like this. They'll typically have thinner floor plates, better access to windows, but for the most part, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And more often than not, it makes more sense to actually tear that building down and start fresh.
You've worked on some pretty amazing projects and you're working on hotels all across the country.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody that's wanting to get started investing in buying hotels?
Yeah. Well, I kind of like what you're doing. Your model is that, you get with a group, so you have less exposure, especially if you don't have experience. You want to put all your chips on one spot in the first time. So I like the crowdfunding model for folks that are just trying to get into it. So put some money with some experienced guys, spread it out a little bit, reduce your risk, and also don't stay with something too fancy. Something in the mid-scale, upper mid-scale, even economy segment is fine just to get some deals done, you know what I mean? Because they're very stable performers, you know what I mean? So I would do the crowdfunding like the model that you have.
What investment metrics should investors pay attention to when they're either looking at buying an existing hotel or developing a new one?
Well, some of the metrics that everyone's talking about right now that have been troubling is insurance costs are going up. Labor costs, labor is a problem, just trying to find a good labor. And then interest rates, of course, are a problem for everybody. So those are like the three, legs of the stool that they're trying to manage. If they can get those in line, get a good interest rate on your debt, you can find the labor, and I think if you can get those in line, that's where you want to be.
Joe, thank you so much.
No problem.
As I mentioned earlier, this was shot at the CCC annual event down in Atlanta. If you want to learn more about the biggest commercial real estate networking event out there, check out the link in the description below and watch this video next on Are Boutique Hotels a Good Investment?